What is going on, guys? Styx here with the Token Minorities, bringing you the first round of playoffs for the VPL NU League. And we are up against FlamingAxel and his Victory Lillies. And before I get into the team, just a reminder that if you like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button. It helps us out a ton and lets us do more cool stuff for you guys. And also, if you have not done so already, please feel free to check out the TTM Discord. It will be linked in the description below. Here at TTM, we not only have draft format stuff, which is why you clicked on this video, but, well, not just draft format from myself, as we do have Crobat for the win and Jolt, but we also have TCG content as well. So feel free to check us out, and also feel free to join our Discord where we have channels for Smogon, TCG, and Draft League. But anyway, on to the team. Like I said, we are up against FlamingAxel and his Victory Lillies. His team is composed of Sock, Vanillux, Donphan, Vaporeon, Magmortar, Klinklang, Golbat, Trevenant, Zebstrika, and Clefairy. So it's a actually relatively terrifying team. One mon in particular that I am most scared of is Vanillux. If you look at my team, and my team has switched up quite a bit since the last regular season game, I wanted to have a little bit of fun with some mons that I hadn't used before, so I dropped, I believe it was Guzzlord for Druddigon, just because Druddigon is, in my opinion, a lot better than Guzzlord. Also gives me another rocker. I dropped Frostlass for Silvally Ghost so that I could keep a Ghost, but still have, well, but also gain a Defogger, and also Frostlass just was not hitting as hard as I really wanted it to, so it just felt like it was a better switch for me just to get Silvally, who has momentum and Defog, but is also a Ghost type. I dropped, I believe it was Electivire for Electros, as I found that I was mostly using Electivire in a bulky role, and Electros, in addition to being another ground immunity, also just fills the role of bulky electric type better and has better options in terms of supporting a team. Like, well, first of all, it has Giga Drain, which really helps against ground types. Also has U-Turn and Knockoff as well. So, I mean, just better momentum in my opinion, and better for what I needed it for with Electros. And then finally, I replaced Garbodor with Dodrio because, well, first of all, I needed to fill out the 110 speed tier that I lost with Frostlass. And Dodrio has been a mon that I really have wanted to try out for a while since it got buffed in Gen 7. Have not had the opportunity to, and I did get the opportunity to in this instance because I was able to pick it up and replace Garbodor. I mean, Garbodor, what I really used it for is to get up Toxic Spikes and then have my opponent just kill themselves with Recoil. Well, I now have Druddigon to fill that Recoil spot as well. And even though I am losing Toxic Spikes and Spikes completely from my team, Venusaur is still a poison type, a grounded poison that I can rely on to get Toxic Spikes off the field for me. And also, I mean, I have Zangoose to punish my opponents for bringing Toxic Spikes if they try to. So in that case, I don't think that I lost too much. I mean, I did definitely lose some stuff, and also my team was 8-0. So there's something to be said about a team going undefeated and then changing it up. But really, I'm just trying to have some fun, and these were mons that I've been wanting to use for a little while. Electros is one of my favorite NU mons, so I'm glad to have that on the team. But anyway, now looking at his team, like I said, Vanillux is terrifying. I have 0 switch-ins on my team. In fact, I believe I have absolutely 0 resists. Well, I mean, Delphox is my only resist. And as you can see, this is how I am tailoring my Delphox in order to try to be able to take on that Vanillux, which otherwise gives my team a really, really hard time. So I'm going to have to work around that. And then also Sock, with the ability to hit 383 attack with an Adamant Nature and coverage for my entire team. That is something that I'm really going to have to take care of. I mean, Sock and Vanillux are utterly terrifying. The rest of his team isn't as worrisome. I mean, Klinklang can be annoying, but I have Venusaur, Seismitoad, Delphox, Electros. Basically, my team handles Klinklang insanely well. So I'm not overly worried about it, but again, it is still something that I want to keep in the back of my mind. Then the rest of his team can be annoying, but I'm mostly just worried about that Sock and the Vanillux. Now, if we look at my team compared to his team, we see that Zangoose destroys him. Zangoose, I mean, there's really no questions about it. Zangoose gets a kill whenever it is in, depending, well, I mean, just depending on what move I click, what he brings. Like, I really do just get a kill with very standard Zangoose coverage against his team. So Zangoose is going to be a win con for me, and also Dodrio as well can hit him insanely hard. Just, I mean, he has little to no resists for bird spam. Zebstrika is not a resist, and yes, Kling Klang does resist and also has pretty decent defense, but Dodrio has this little thing called Jump Kick, which is super effective against Kling Klang as well. So really, Dodrio and Zangoose do insanely well against him, as well as Calm Mind Delphox. So that's basically what I'm going to center my team around, is those guys being able to give him an incredibly hard time, and then cater my defensive walls to try to take on his stuff as well as possible. So on to my team. First of all, I have the Delphox, which is going to be my primary Vanillux answer. Now, Delphox, okay, so first of all, Specs Vanillux still does like 37 to 40% to Delphox. When you couple that with Stealth Rock and Hail, Delphox gets worn down very quickly, to the point where after a single Blizzard, like if it didn't have any recovery, after a single Blizzard switch in on rocks, Delphox is no longer a switch in to Vanillux at all. So I obviously had to do something to handle that. At first I tried Leftovers to try to mitigate the effects of Hail, but then that really just wasn't getting me anywhere. It wasn't netting me any HP that I wanted. So I came up with the idea of running a Mago Berry, which is a half HP berry. I mean, that's what it does. Once you get under half HP, or you get under 25%, it activates. And with the combination of Hail switching into Blizzard and Stealth Rocks, Delphox actually gets into Mago range pretty reliably, to where I'm able to come in, take a Blizzard, and then be at like 40%, and then on my next switch in, I activate my Mago Berry, and then there is a very cool combination of Mago Berry plus Magician that I will be able to use once my Mago Berry is consumed, and I attack something switching in, or I simply attack the Vanillux. I will take the item of whatever mon my opponent goes into, so that's a pretty nifty combination right there. And then as for the moves, you have Calm Mind, Fire Blast, Psyshock, and Grass Knot just to hit his team as hard as possible. I mean, just Dual Stab destroys his team. Grass Knot hits Donphan a little bit harder, and then depending on Vaporeon's investment, Grass Knot hits it a little bit harder too, but again, we have to see what the Vaporeon is running. And then Calm Mind, if I can get up to +1, I take hits better, and I also nuke his team a lot harder. As for the EVs, the speed is to guaranteed outspeed Jolly Sock, as that's the closest thing that he has to my Delphox, apart from Zebstrika, which obviously outspeeds me anyway. So outspeeding Sock was an obvious benchmark. I initially had Timid, which was where the EVs in Spadef came from. I got enough speed for Sock, maxed out special attack, and then threw the rest into Spadef. But Jolt, my good buddy, pointed out that it would be actually easier, well, it would give me a couple extra EVs if I changed the nature to Modest, still hit the speed tier that I needed, and then just kept the same Spadef. So that's where it came from. I originally had 152 Spadef with the Timid nature. With the Modest nature, I now believe I get 4 extra EVs in special attack, and the speed is still enough to outspeed Sock. So I mean, it looks like a pretty complicated EV spread, but actually it ended up being very simplistic, just a matter of optimizing the amount of EVs. Next up, we do have Seismitoad, who, I mean, once I get up rocks, I really destroy him, and also rocks are going to be a big way of pressuring the Vanillux. That way it just doesn't get free switches all the time. It'll be taking 25%, break Sock sturdy, break Donphan sturdy, wear down Magmortar and Golbat. Just basically get a ton of passive damage on his team that is pretty invaluable in terms of wearing him down. Then I also have Knockoff to get rid of, I mean, the only things that I'm worried about are Choice Scarfs. So once I get rid of the Choice Scarfs and the Eviolites, or Eviolites, however you want to say it, I win the game with Zangoose. Like, almost no questions asked. If I get rid of the Choice Scarfs and the Eviolites, Zangoose will straight up win. So Seismitoad baits in like Golbat and Clefairy. Also, it gets rid of lefties on Vaporeon, who can be annoying otherwise. Maybe even get rid of the berry on Trevenant, even though I insanely doubt Trevenant is coming. Like, Trevenant, it has a very bad matchup against me, in my opinion, so I don't think it's going to be coming. But either way, Knockoff mainly gets rid of Vaporeon's lefties and Golbat's Eviolite, which can take a hit from Zangoose, and also can potentially get rid of the Choice Scarf on either Sock or Vanillix. I'm expecting one of those two to be Scarfed. Like, that's what I'm banking off. One of those two is going to be Scarfed this game. If I can get rid of that, Zangoose wins. So Knockoff can get rid of one of those, get rid of the lefties, get rid of the Eviolite. Toxic to wear down the Vaporeon. I considered Subtoxic on Seismitoad and bringing Druddigon for rocks, but I felt that the other Mons on this team were very necessary, or relatively necessary, more so than Druddigon. So I decided to stick with Stealth Rock, and then Scald just as a good move. I mean, Vaporeon can Toxic me, we can trade Toxics, but Scald still just hits stuff nicely, can potentially burn Sock and Vanillix, hits Magmortar super effectively, Klinklang, that type of thing. So those are the moves on Seismitoad, and then just lefties for extra longevity. The defense is to guaranteed avoid the 2-hit KO from Scarf Jolly Close Combat after rocks from Sock. I mean, you're going to hear Sock's name come up quite a bit, as it's terrifying to me. The speed was just thrown in there to outspeed stuff trying to speed creep my Seismitoad, like if it had 4 EVs. Like if I just went max and threw 4 into speed, 12 EVs is to outspeed that, and then the rest I just threw in Spit F, so Seismitoad can maybe take like an HP Grass a little bit better, that type of thing. Next up, we do have Assault Vest Electros, which is just kind of a coverall for his special attackers, because I don't want Delphox to be my only way of dealing with his special attackers. So Electros is kind of a middle ground way of dealing with that. I mean, it's bulky enough that it can take physical hits, but it mainly can just switch in on his special attacking stuff, relieve a little bit of the pressure off of Delphox, and also prevent Seismitoad from having to take HP Grass, or Venusaur from having to take Overheat from a potential Zebstrika that he brings. Just another way of dealing with his special attackers. Assault Vest, obviously, to take special hits better, and then a moveset of Volt Switch, Knockoff, Giga Drain, and Flamethrower. Get used to Knockoff, because it is actually on 5 of the 6 Mons on my team. So, yeah, I mean, I do love Knockoff. Jolt was actually making fun of me for it, considering how much I love Knockoff. But Volt Switch gives me momentum against his team, even though it is stopped by Donphan. I mean, if Donphan comes in, cool, what is it going to do to me? I'm just going to Giga Drain, get a ton of health off of that thing. So Volt Switch was considered to be better, and then also gives me momentum against the rest of his team while still hitting Golbat and Vaporeon super effectively. Knockoff, like I said, gets rid of Scarves, Eviolites, that type of thing. Giga Drain for the Donphan, just so it can't set up on me at all or give me problems. Like, if I did not have Giga Drain, the best thing I could hit it with was Flamethrower. So Giga Drain, in addition to hitting Donphan super effectively, also gives Electros a little bit of HP, like a way of restoring HP, which is very necessary on an Assault Vest Mon that does not have Regenerator. And then finally, Flamethrower. Finally, Flamethrower, so that I am able to hit things like Trevenant and Klinklang super effectively, and Vanillix. That thing is kind of necessary to hit super effectively as well. Now, the EVs on Electros, obviously max HP with enough Spit F to avoid Timid Specs, Blizzard, 2-hit KOing, I believe with the Hail. The defense is to avoid an Oko from Adamant, Sock with Earthquake after rocks. I mean, I'm not relying on Electros to take on Sock, but I mean, it was just 12 EVs. So I decided that, yeah, that's worth it just to avoid that if the situation arises. And then I just threw the rest into special attack so that I can hit a little bit harder against certain threats of his team. Next up, we have my dedicated Sock answer, and that is going to be Venusaur. Now, Venusaur just has to be super defensive in order to take on Sock, and yes, Sock can hit me with like Ice Punch, Fire Punch, and Zen Headbutt super effectively, but if he does over 50% with any of those attacks, then he is not Scarved, and that is actually a lot better for me. I actually deal with Sock and Vanillix better if they are banned in specs respectively than I do if they are Scarf. So Scarf, Venusaur takes on 100% of the time, well, Sock anyway, and then if it is banded, then my attackers deal with it just fine. So Venusaur will have a moveset of Synthesis, Knockoff, Giga Drain, and Earthquake. There is that handy-dandy Knockoff again. Now this one was actually one of the first knockoffs I had on my team, because Venusaur baits in Golbat 1,000,000,000% of the time. Like, Venusaur generally cannot touch Golbat apart from like Leech Seed, maybe a Hidden Power, but that's not doing jack to an invested Golbat anyway. So Venusaur baits in Golbat, and I want that thing's Eviolite gone, because only if it has an Eviolite can it take a hit from Zangoose. So the sooner I can knock that off, the better things will go for me. So that's why I have knockoff there. Giga Drain to take on Donphan, and Vaporeon, just get my health back, and then Earthquake, because this is Venusaur. This Venusaur is my answer to like Zebstrika. Hit that super effectively. Klinklang can't set up on me. Magmortar is also hit super effectively on the switch, so that is why I have that. And then I have enough defense to guaranteed avoid a 2-hit KO from Zen Headbutt from an Adamant Sock, and then just the 16 I threw into Spidef. Just, I really didn't think there was a better spot to put it, and making Venusaur take hits a little bit better is always nice. Now, finally, we have my 2 potential win cons. The first one is going to be Dodrio. Now, originally, I had a Scarf Passimian in this slot in order to guaranteed have something to outspeed the Vanillux, but I decided, you know what? I think Dodrio legitimately just gets a kill as soon as it comes in. I'd rather have that, and I think I can pressure the Vanillux enough otherwise to where I didn't think I needed the Scarf Passimian as much, and plus he had Clefairy and Golbat to take that thing on pretty well. So I decided that Dodrio was a better option in this slot, especially since it can run Adamant. So it's Flynium Z with Brave Bird, knockoff, once again knockoff, Mirror Move, and Jump Kick. Now, with the Flynium Z, I can Mirror Move, which Z Mirror Move boosts my attack by 2 stages while I still get to get off a Z move. And there are plenty of things that I can copy on his team. I could copy like a Close Combat from Sock. I could copy a Brave Bird from Golbat. I can copy Earthquake from Donphan. There are so many different things that I can Z Mirror Move that it's definitely a great option, and then makes me a gigantic threat to the rest of his team. So that's why I have the Flynium Z with Mirror Move, and then Brave Bird, knockoff, and Jump Kick just as coverage for the rest of his team. Jump Kick obviously for the Klinklang, and then everything else is hit insanely hard by Brave Bird. Now the EVs, enough speed for Sock, once again, just maxed out my attack and threw the rest into HP, so very straightforward there. And finally, we have the Zangoose with Toxic Orb. I mean, of course I'm running Toxic Orb Zangoose. Just because you know it's coming doesn't mean you can prepare for it all that well. Zangoose, if it's in on something that it is faster than, just gets a kill whenever it's in. I mean, Facade, Close Combat, Knockoff, all destroy my opponent's team if used correctly on the right mon. And then Quick Attack is good for just picking off stuff. I know that he ran a Endure Select Sock set, so I'm not going to lose to anything that only has a little bit of HP left, so that's why there's Quick Attack on the Zangoose. And then the EVs, again, fairly straightforward as well. Same thing, similar thing to my Dodrio. Enough speed for Sock guaranteed, max out attack, and then throw a little bit into HP just so I can be a little bit bulkier. So yeah, that's the team. It's fairly straightforward. Let's go ahead and hop right on over to the battle. Alrighty, here we are in the battle, and the first thing I'm noticing is that, okay, so he pretty much brought exactly what I expected from him, except I expected there to be a Sock over a Zebstrika. So I mean, pretty much what I thought he was going to bring. So I feel pretty good going in, but again, that Vanillux is a huge, huge, huge threat to me, and I really don't want to have to deal with that, but I mean, here we are. We have to deal with it, so I'm going to lead with my Electros because he has 2 potential leads. He's either going to lead with, well, 3 potential. He's going to lead with Zebstrika because it's faster and can get off Volt Switch and Momentum. He's going to lead with Donphan to try to get up Rocks, or he's going to lead with Vanillux and try to put on pressure early. Either way, any of those 3, Electros has a good matchup against, so that's what I'm going to lead, as he does lead his Vanillux. And I'm not going to mess around with this thing. I'm immediately going to go for Knockoff, because if I can get rid of that thing's potential Scarf, then I just win with Zangoose. And if I'm able to get rid of his Specs, well, I take hits better. So I just go for the Knockoff as he goes into Clefairy. And I go for the Volt Switch right here, as he is revealed to be a defensive Clefairy, not Spidef at all. So that's something to note. And now that its Eviolite's gone, I'm going to be able to I'm going to be able to destroy that thing with my different attacks. And I knew that he was probably going to try to get up Rocks with Clefairy at this point, because Clefairy is, you know, I mean, it gets Rocks. This frees up a slot on Donphan, and there really isn't any other move that you would want to have on Clefairy. So what I should have done is gone. Seismitoad right here exchanged rocks, forced him to either spin or defog them later. So that's what I should have done, as I knew he would get up rocks here. But instead, I go into Zangoose and I'm like, you know what? Nothing on his team switches in. I am going to get a kill immediately with my Toxic Orb boosted Facade. So this wasn't necessarily like a bad play, but I should, instead of being insanely aggressive from the beginning, and I should have gotten my rocks up so that I could apply pressure to his team, as Vanillix was more than likely just going to be damaged by the rocks, because it would be a hit and run mon. It wouldn't stay in on anything. So I'm going to go into my Zangoose as he does get up the rocks. And with my Poison Orb, or Toxic Orb activating right now, I'm just going to fire off a Facade. It absolutely destroys the Clefairy, and now I'm in a decent spot. I mean, I'm up 6-5, and my Zangoose has its Toxic Orb activated. But unfortunately, he has rocks up. I have no way of getting rid of those, so this is going to be interesting in playing around that. He's going to go into his Vanillix right now. That immediately tells me that this is Choice Scarf, so I'm going to go into my answer in Delphox as he fires off a Blizzard, and that is guaranteed Choice Scarf. Blah, I'm tripping over my words right now. So that does reveal that it is Scarfed. I was really, really hoping it would do significantly more. That way I could be like, oh, it's Specs, I'm fine. But nope, it is Scarf, so this is going to be tricky to play around. But with the Blizzard and the Hail, I am going to be in Mago range once I switch in my Delphox. So that means Delphox can switch in to Vanillux once again. So that's what I'm going to be playing around the next time I come in. And at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and fire off a Psyshock as it hits anything on his team. It hits Vanillix for the weaker defense. And while Fire Blast would have completely just O-code it, I didn't want to risk missing, and this way I just guaranteed get a hit off on something. Goes into Vaporeon. That Psyshock does a ton. That tells me that he is not defensive Vaporeon in the least, or at least he only has HP investment and not any in like defense. So I'm going to go into my Venusaur to sponge whatever hit the Vaporeon wants to go for, the water attack, and he's going to go for the Surf, and that does actually a sizable chunk, meaning that this Vaporeon is really invested in special attack. After I saw that, what I should have done was gone for the Synthesis or the Giga Drain right now. But I figured that he would go into Golbat, and I wanted to try to get a knockoff on that thing as quickly as possible, as opposed to just trying to weaken this Vaporeon, and that's actually going to come back to bite me really badly. What I should have done with Venusaur is right here, either Synthesis up or Giga Drained. Like, that way I would have been at a good amount of HP regardless, because I have answers to Golbat. Like, Golbat gets answered by Electros and Seismitoad. I can come in with both of those things and get the knockoff on Golbat with either of those. But again, I was being overly aggressive. I did not think out this play completely, as, I mean, he does have the Ice Beam. Of course he does. He was an offensive Vaporeon, so that was a very poor play on my part, as I'm going to go for the knockoff. I get rid of his Assault Vest, and that's honestly not the best for me. I should, like I said, should have gone for Giga Drain or Synthesis. Yes, he was Assault Vest, but Giga Drain still would have done super effective damage. I could have potentially been out of range of another Ice Beam from Vaporeon, and I would have been able to scout that out at least. But instead, Venusaur is going to be insanely low. Vaporeon is still going to be at a decent amount of HP, and Golbat did not come in. So I'm behind in this exchange right now. I don't want to sack my Venusaur off just yet, as I can potentially get a Synthesis up on the Donphan. So I'm going to go into my AV Electros, knowing I can take whatever hit he wants to go for. And he goes for the Ice Beam. I take that nicely. He's going to go for Surf and get a crit. Now that really sucks, as I'm going to go for the Giga Drain, barely miss out on the KO. I mean, I looked at the roll. I could not have KO'd him from that range. So with his investment, my Electros would not have been able to KO him with Giga Drain from that range. But what this does mean with the Surf crit is that Electros is going to be a lot lower than it should have been. Like, I should have been right around the same amount of HP as I had when I took that Surf to begin with. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen. So Electros, unfortunately, I still need it to be able to take hits from Zebstrika, because with Venusaur and Electros low, Zebstrika is looking like a bigger and bigger potential threat, with HP Grass being able to hit my Seismitoad super effectively. So I still want to have something to be able to take hits from Zebstrika. So at this point, because of that crit, I cannot leave Electros in. I'm going to go into my Venusaur, sack that off to a Surf, and now I have a couple options. With Venusaur down, I can go into any one of my Mons and revenge kill it. I don't want to go into my Seismitoad just because, I mean, in case he is fast and has HP Grass. Like, yes, he was Assault Vest, but because he revealed to be very little HP, I'm thinking that he's got special attack and some speed. So Seismitoad would not be able to knock it out without sustaining a heavy hit, and I need Seismitoad to take Blizzards at this point, as it's one of the few Mons on my team that can. So I'm not going to go into Seismitoad. I could go into Zangoose or Dodrio and take the knockout on his Vaporeon, but that would put them both, that would make them both take rocks damage. And that's kind of something I wanted to avoid. I wanted to give them, or have them have as much HP as possible for later in the game. So I'm going to make another misplay and go into my Delphox knowing that my Mago will activate and I will be able to outspeed this Vaporeon. So, I mean, Delphox is now at 68%, which is pretty nice, and I'm going to be able to knock out this Vaporeon. But what I should have done was gone into either Zangoose or Dodrio to KO this Vaporeon. Yes, I keep out Vanillux from switching in, but at the same time, I still popped my Mago early on the Delphox, and it's really just, it was not a particularly good play on my part to do that, as he does reveal the Quick Attack that does negligible damage, and I am able to knock out the Vaporeon. But at this point, my Mago is popped, my Delphox is relatively low, going to be coming in on rocks, and this is not looking good. He goes into his Donphan. I know 1000% he's going to go for the Earthquake, so I'm going to go into my Electros, as I do predict that nicely. I mean, he could have gone for, like, Stone Edge or Knockoff, but Delphox is the one thing that's standing in the way of his Vanillux winning the game, and I would think that he would take whatever opportunity he could to try to take that thing out, because as soon as he takes that thing out, he wins the game. So I knew that he probably was not, well, I knew that he probably, wow, I figured that he would not try to mess around with that, and this would give Electros a free switch-in, which it otherwise would not have, and I'd be able to just go into that. And I'm going to go for the knockoff, figuring, okay, he probably has Sap Sipper on Zebstrika. I go for the knockoff. It doesn't get rid of his item, meaning he is Z. Goes for the Overheat. That does nothing, as I'm able to go for the Flamethrower. Does more than half of his remaining HP, meaning I will be able to knock it out with another Flamethrower. And what I could have done here was go for a T-Bolt or a knockoff, but I figured that I wanted to get Zebstrika out of the way. If he switched out, I still would get a decent hit off on something with my Flamethrower. If he goes Vanillux, that would be amazing, but unfortunately he makes the smart play, goes into Golbat. Flamethrower is able to do a good chunk of damage to it, and this is where the crit comes into play. I cannot afford to switch my Electros out at this point. If I had a little bit more HP from that crit, well, had I not got crit, I would have been able to switch out, come back in later, still be able to check the Zebstrika to an extent. 'Cause, I mean, you saw how little Overheat did, and if he went for Overheat, then that would lower his special attack, meaning my other attackers could take it on better. But unfortunately, I am forced to let Electros go down here. And another thing, if he, when he Volt switched out, he probably would not have been able to go into Golbat. Well, actually, he wouldn't have been able to go into Golbat, as Brave Bird would not have been able to take me out from the range I would have been at, because I would have been at about, I think I would have been at about like 12 to, yeah, I would have been at about like 12% higher, which meant Golbat could not take me out with his, Golbat could not take me out with Brave Bird, meaning I would either get a knockoff or a Volt switch off, and I would have been in a better position. Unfortunately, that's not the case. I'm forced to sack Electros, and now I'm going to go into my Dodrio, just click my Z Mirror move, as it will just absolutely destroy something, and I just need to start taking KOs. So Z, Supersonic Sky Strike after Z Mirror move, I'm +2, take out the Golbat, and now I know he's going to go into Vanillux and revenge me. I cannot afford to switch in my Delphox, because if I switch in Delphox, I just lose. Dodrio has done its job. It came in, got one big kill, and then went down. As he goes for Freeze Dry, meaning Seismitoad cannot come in, I'm forced to go into my Delphox, and I'm just going to fire off a Fire Blast, just wreck something. I hit the Zebstrika, take that thing out, and this is coming down straight to the wire. Seismitoad can take a Blizzard, but cannot take a Freeze Dry. Zangoose can take a Freeze Dry, but not take a Blizzard. So it's really just a matter of preserving the HP on both of those so that I'm able to take whatever hits he decides to go for. And he goes into his Donphan right here. Since I don't have my berry, anymore. I am going to be able to Grass Knot, get rid of his Assault Vest, which doesn't seem like that big of a deal as he takes me out with Earthquake, but it's actually a pretty significant deal. Now I can go into my uninvested Seismitoad. Normally, if he had the Assault Vest, I would be scared about Scald potentially not killing depending on his investment. But because of that, I'm going to go into my Seismitoad. I don't want Zangoose to come in because it will take Stealth Rock, Hail, and Toxic, which will put me in range of Freeze Dry from Vanillux, which I can't afford. Like, if I let Zangoose be in range of Freeze Dry, I just straight up lose the game, and I cannot afford to do that. So what I'm going to have to do is go into my Seismitoad, pray that I outspeed, that he isn't running an absolute, like, crap ton of speed, and go for Scald, which, as you can see, I am able to outspeed him, go for Scald, and take out the Donphan, and I pretty much win the game at this point. Now, that was actually a big 50-50. If he went to Vanillux right there on my Scald, then he won the game, because he'd be able to just Freeze Dry, and then the combination of Donphan plus Vanillux would be able to take out my Zangoose. Like, he won the game if he switched out to Vanillux right there. But I know that he wouldn't necessarily risk it. Or actually, no, I didn't know. I figured that he wouldn't risk it. Really, it was a 50-50. Because if I knocked off as he went into Vanillux, then I won with Zangoose, because I would have outspeeded and, or outsped and killed everything with Facade. But if he went Vanillux on my Scald, then he won the game. But if he stayed in with Donphan as I knocked off, he would have gone for Seed Bomb, which would put me in range of Blizzard, which would allow Vanillux to win the game. And basically it was a 50-50, which I did end up getting right, and assuming he doesn't crit me or freeze me with Blizzard, I am going to be able to win the game. So now I'm going to go for Knockoff, and in case he goes for Blizzard, goes for Freeze Dry, knocks out my Seismitoad. My Zangoose is guaranteed not in range of a Freeze Dry at this point, so I am just praying that he doesn't crit me, and I'm going to go for the Facade. I live on 4%, I'm able to take out that Vanillux with a Facade and win the game. So, man, I escape with 4%. That was very, very clutch by Zangoose right there. Ultimately, I did not play well. I played very, very poorly in this game. There were a lot of plays that should have been made here and there by me that I did not make, and I want to give all the credit to Axel. He played incredibly well. He prepped incredibly well. And unfortunately, Zangoose was just doing what Zangoose does and takes kills and just absolutely destroys stuff. So that was very fortunate for me, and I talked to him after. Turns out, Donphan had enough speed for 4 investment Seismitoad. So my 12 investment came through to where I was able to outspeed his Donphan by 1. And the MVP of that game was the 12 speed investment on Seismitoad, which allowed me to win the game. So that was an absolutely insane game. Great job, Axel. Like, you're one heck of a player, and that was an insane match. But we do move on to the semifinals. Luckily, able to take that game, and yeah, so we're going to be going up against Sebasculin, and unfortunately, I don't think Nasty Plot Volibee is going to be able to just take 6 kills in this upcoming game. So there's that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.